$3 billion, more than Kellogg's, Whole Foods, and half the firms in the S&P 500. That was a rather extraordinary week, but it was also a great snapshot of today's marketplace, both the risk and the opportunity that come with industry disruption. In today's world of hyperconnectivity and exponential growth, every company is stepping back to evaluate where it's vulnerable, or how it can find an edge and revolutionize an industry. It's not enough to be big. At its peak, Blockbuster had about 9,000 retail stores across the United States. It had the scale, but not the agility to remain relevant. And while every founder dreams of creating the next Twitter or Instagram, 90% of companies won't live to see year 2. While they're all designed to be agile, most of them struggle with scale. Every company needs both scale and agility to win. From a fledgling startup in Nepal to a century-old multinational in New York, scale and agility are two things that are essential to every company's success. Scale and agility. If you're working for a startup, you get agility. Chances are you're iterating your product/market fit daily and pivoting when necessary just to stay alive. But the thing that keeps you up at night is scale. Stabilizing your business model so that you can move to the next stage and become a company. This requires more funding, more staff, more customers, more of everything. If you're working for an established company, you get scale. In fact, the reason you're in the position you're in is because you know how a company at scale operates. You're successful because you know how to leverage scale with a high degree of effectiveness and efficiency. Perhaps you'd like to grow revenue or expand operations, but what you worry about is keeping up and staying competitive in a world of increasing uncertainty and change, complicated by the upstarts searching for ways to disrupt your industry. If your company is public, you understand all of this in a different dimension. You live under the pressure of managing a global business every day, knowing that at the end of the quarter, you and your peers will be ruthlessly judged by thousands of stakeholders. There are millions, and sometimes billions, of dollars at risk every quarter. Managing your scale is always a concern, but what keeps you up at night is mainly agility. How to meet expectations this quarter, but also create the speed and flexibility your company needs to drive innovation, and create the culture you need to remain relevant to the next generation. As Vice President of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the Coca-Cola Company, and former head of design, I'm often asked questions like, how does Coca-Cola, a 100-year-old brand, stay relevant? And how does a giant company like Coca-Cola innovate? What's your strategy? What if there were something that you, your startup, your team, your function, your division, could use to create the kind of scale and agility you need to win? Design can create both scale and agility. When it comes to design, most people want to know the basics. How does Coca-Cola use design to stay competitive? How do you create the most value from design? How do you use design to innovate? These are all good questions, since even the most analytical and execution-oriented business managers know that design can create value far beyond just making products look and feel better. For some companies, design can actually help them grow. But how? Coca-Cola and design. When you think of Coca-Cola and design, your mind probably goes immediately to the company's most iconic brand, Coca-Cola, with its familiar color, distinctive logo, and iconic packaging. The combination of those elements, designed over a century ago, helped create one of the world's most valuable brands, worth over $170 billion. However, at Coca-Cola, design is about more than the traditional and visible elements. While logos and colors are important, it's the stuff you can't see, the stuff that's invisible, that's often doing the heavy lifting. Coca-Cola designs things like products, advertising, packaging, and coolers, as well as the way those things connect to each other to drive growth. And that's what makes the way Coca-Cola designs strategic. When used strategically, design can help companies grow.